So, as I sit down and I scroll through Writer's Digest as one does, I came across this article titled Lynn Buchanan on Breaking Good Writing Advice. And I thought, as a channel reviewing writing advice articles, often critiquing them and telling them how they can be better, what about an article that talks about breaking good writing advice? That sounds like a good fit. So this is an interview of this author named Lynn Buchanan, and the writer of the article is Robert Lee Brewer, and I've definitely seen that name before. Lynn Buchanan discusses how she rewrote one scene over 20 times in the process of writing her debut fantasy novel, The Dollmakers. So this is an introduction of who Lynn Buchanan is. They give a little bio. We're not going to go over that. And this is The Dollmakers, which is her book. So we get into the interview down there, I see. Okay. This book recently came out, August 13 this year, 2024. She has a lit agent, so that means she is traditionally published. Her publisher is Harper Voyager. Okay, so she's not like me, who is self-publishing. Okay. So, what prompted you to write this book? They ask, and she said, I have a soft spot for visual art mediums, illustration and animation in particular. It's not a stretch to say one of my biggest hobbies is scouring social media and the internet in general, looking for cool artists to follow. A few years back, long before I wrote The Dollmakers, during one such scouring, I came across an artist who had these amazing pieces depicting women making really creepy looking but beautiful dolls. The moment I saw those illustrations, I knew I wanted to write a story about women who made dolls that came to life. More specifically, I wanted to write a story about a woman who made beautiful dolls and another woman who made hideous dolls, both of which were trying to use their dolls to protect others from monsters. That's a very interesting idea. That seed of an idea sat for several years before actually coming to fruition. I tend to need to stew on ideas for quite a while before getting to a point where I can effectively write them. That time came for The Dollmakers at the beginning of 2020 when I decided I wanted to try my hand at a story about art and art creation, focusing on a main character who thinks she knows exactly what her art's purpose is, but is devastatingly incorrect. The main character of The Dollmakers, Sean, was born from that. And with her, all of the pieces I've been waiting to click into place for the story did. Interesting. So, since this is an interview, it's going to be more of my reaction than me reviewing this writing article. It's not an advice particularly, unless she actually gives a piece of advice for other people. But anyway, so I feel like 2020, that was during the height of the pandemic. It was the year of creation, the year in which people stuck in their homes decided, you know what? I got some time now. Maybe I'll take up knitting. Maybe I'll make some art. Maybe I'll write a story. So I think a lot of stories came out during 2020, some that were good, some that were bad. A lot of people decided to start writing in 2022. Not 2022. They started writing in 2020 as well. And now those people are writers. Published writers, I mean. So that is how she got started. That is a thing. 2020, I was busy trying to finish up my academic life. So, yeah, I thought this was a very interesting idea. A woman who makes beautiful dolls and one who makes hideous dolls, both trying to use their dolls to protect others from monsters, leading to main character who thinks she knows exactly what her art's purpose is, but is devastatingly incorrect. Very interesting start. How long did it take to go from idea to publication, and did the idea change during the process? Not counting the years I spent stewing on the concept, the doll makers took me about 6 months to draft and revise. Damn, 6 months, huh? Wow. I did another small revision on it with my agent before we sent it out on submission. She has an agent. When did she get the agent? Did she already have an agent? Because was she already a published author somehow? Where did she query the story? I am confused because you have to query literary agents and that's a long process. How do you, was she offered a deal or something? This is her debut fantasy novel, so maybe she had other books. Maybe she did. Let's go to the bottom for a sec. No, we're not getting anything else. Okay, so it could be that she already had some books published in a different genre, and so she already had an agent for that, because 6 months is not enough to like snatch an agent unless you're super lucky. Maybe she was super lucky, I don't know, but it sounds like she already had an agent if she was revising it with her agent. Maybe she already has one. Maybe. And we sold it about 6 months after that. The deal came through in 2022 with publication planned for 2024. So the longest wait was actually between selling and publication. The core idea of the doll makers definitely changed from when I started the book to finishing it, but most of those changes happened during the initial drafting process itself, and rather than change, I'd say a better descriptor would be refined. The nebulous idea of one doll maker who makes pretty dolls, one who makes ugly dolls, definitely needed to be fleshed out and nuanced once I got into writing, and that took a lot of false starts, tweaks, and the occasional painful wholesale ripping out of scenes and starting over. So I'm assuming she has a full-time job as a writer to be able to do this in like 6 months. Or she might not. I don't know. It says the deal came through 2022, publication plan for 2024. That means she was probably working on it during that time. How is it that she got an agent, though? When did she, like, I can only think maybe she already had one, like I said before. So, because I am a self-published or going to be a self-published author at the time of recording this, this painful ripping out of scenes and starting over, that is definitely something that I have gone through. In fact, Between Roses, which is my debut novel, YA Portal Fantasy debut novel, Between Roses, it began as a 2013 Nano Challenge. And I know Nano Challenges are kind of controversial right now, but it did begin as a 2013 Nano Challenge. And when I first started, I thought I would do a rewrite of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. And I did start it, but then it wasn't going well. Like I was trying to do Alice in Wonderland as it originally began, with Alice sitting on a tree with her sister or something like that and being bored, but like I don't know, like what am I supposed to do? So I wrote like a page and then I thought this is not working. You know what? Scrap it all. I deleted about 1,500 words, which is like a page. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to write a Wonderland story, how I would write a Wonderland story. So it started to be a young adult fantasy. And so the first scene between roses, where the main character, Aaron Kingsley, is stalking down the hall, going after the nerd in the plaid shirt, that scene is the same since when I first wrote it. I mean, I changed it a little bit, but it's the same scene from when I first wrote it. And so that's how it started. It started off as this, I didn't anticipate that Erin would be a mean girl, but it turned out that way. And I also imagined, what if a normal modern girl of our era this ends up in a wacky fantasy world. Realistically, what would she think about? She wouldn't be like those other characters in fantasy stories where they're like, oh, there's magic? Huh, interesting. All right, fine. In reality, I thought it would be more like, wait, where am I? Is this a dream? Wait, if it's not a dream, then maybe this is a theme park, or maybe I've gone crazy somehow. Because what other explanation is there? And then you realize it is actually real, and you're actually stuck in this fantasy world. Well, how am I going to get home? Who can I trust? These people seem to be kind of crazy, but can I trust them to at least help me get home? What is going on? Why is everyone after me for some power? I don't have any powers, do I? So I thought, I'd write a story in my way, Wonderland in my way. And so that's how between Roses started. So initially, yes, I did rip out an entire 1,500 words when I first started writing. And then the story just got wackier and wackier, and now here we are. So what Lynn is talking about, these false starts and tweaks, I mean, that is totally normal and stuff for every writer. I see everyone talking about it. I've experienced it many, many times and still am. Okay, it doesn't go away. Were there any surprises or learning moments in the publishing process for this title? This will be interesting for me to read about because she is traditionally published. I am self-published. So let's see. I think the biggest learning experience has been the way selling the doll makers has changed my actual writing schedule. Before selling the doll makers, I had a pretty strict rhythm when it came to writing. I drafted a book for about 6 months, put it aside, started something new. And once I finished that new project, I'd go back and revise the book written before it for a month or so. Then rinse and repeat. That's actually a nice schedule. I kind of go all over the place. Whatever, I'm a mood reader. Read whatever fits my mood at the moment. I'm also a mood writer, I think, because I be happily editing along and feel like, you know what? I really, really feel like I want to work on my gothic fantasy novel. I really want to edit that. So then I do. And then after a while, I think, you know what? I want to write a new story. So then I do. And then I think, you know what? I think I'm going to go back to editing my Wonderland story. So then I do. I think I'm kind of a mood writer, although I can discipline myself, like for nano challenges, or if I just try like a personal 50K challenge, I can discipline myself to stick to one story for a month or 2 or 3. So that is that for me. But her way of working on something for 6 months and then starting something new and then going back to edit, that's a nice cycle. That's a nice cycle, I think. I don't know if it'll work for everyone, but it definitely works for her, so that's good. But then it changed, apparently. Once I had a book deal, though, I found revision on the doll makers as well as other projects eating up more and more of my time, to the point that for almost a year now, I've been working on revisions for already written books, with only a month or two here or there freeing up for me to draft a new project. I know all the revision I've been doing is good / necessary, but I definitely miss getting to write new books. Oh, I feel that. I feel that so much right now. So, as I was in the waiting state of, after ARC readers had finished reading and releasing my book, which is tomorrow at the time of recording this, I just wanted to write stories, but I also wanted to edit the other book that also takes place in the same collection of Between Roses. So the collection is called New Soleil Girls because all the main characters are girls, and every story first takes place in New Soleil, which is a fictional state I made up, and it exists supposedly somewhere around California. So that is the situation for me. And so I'm thinking, you know what? I should work on the other New Soleil Girls books. One that I feel like I can edit right now, which is the next one that I feel like I can edit, was the Rat Girl. Even though there was one before that I wrote, which is a little less recent. Well, which one is more recent? No, I think the one before that is more recent. Anyway, so the Rat Girl is the next one. I don't know if I'll call it the Rat Girl, but that's the temporary title for me to talk about it. And editing it. Yes, but also feeling like I want to write new books. So what I do is I write short stories. For Patreon, I write poetry. So I try to tickle that I want to write new things itch. I try to scratch that I want to write new things itch. Yes, I don't want to tickle it. I don't want to make it worse. Okay. I'm working on, what is this word supposed to be? Is it supposed to be finalizing? But the G and the Z on the keyboard are so far away. Could it be the S? Like a British spelling? It says finagling. Finagling. Is that actually a word that I don't know? I'm working on finagling my schedule. Is that a word? I don't know. To be more balanced between drafting and revising again, though, and I'm getting there, slowly but surely. Okay. So she wants to get into writing more books, and so she's trying to figure out her schedule. I'm definitely sort of in that state where I'm trying to figure out, okay, so I want to work on this book, to edit it. I have so much trouble saying edit it for some reason. To edit it and revising it and everything, while also giving myself time to draft new stories. There are some stories that I'm in the middle of drafting, so I want to go back to them maybe. So that is what is going on with her. Okay. I bet it's really nice to have a book deal. I mean, that means you're definitely going to be published if you put all the work in that you can. That sounds so nice. I don't have that. Were there any surprises in the writing process for this book? There's a tried and true piece of writing advice, a piece of advice I was given when I was starting out, and one I repeat to beginning writers and honestly experienced writers to this day. When you're drafting, just draft. Don't revise, don't rework scenes in the pursuit of perfection. A first draft is meant to be messy. so let it be messy. I don't follow this advice. I used to, it's good advice, but when I sat down to write The Dollmakers, I find myself breaking that don't revise as you draft rule, fixating on and rewriting scenes over and over again until they felt right. I couldn't bring myself to move on from a single scene until I was completely satisfied with it, which led me to rewriting every scene in the book multiple times as I drafted, sometimes just 2 or 3 times, once, and deeply depressing, upward of 20 times over the course of an entire month. The cursed month, as I think of it now. You know what? That method worked for me and continues to work when I draft new projects. I rewrite every scene until it's functioning as I want it to function before I move on. If I don't do that, the book breaks and I end up having to scrap and go back, sometimes all the way to the beginning, which is torture. So the biggest surprise I ran across in writing The Dollmakers was this strange advice and good sense defying breakthrough with my own process, a breakthrough that I still can't believe works, and one I deeply don't recommend unless, of course, it works for you too. I have a theory. Theoriously. The word theoriously comes out in my book Between Roses. I like to use it sometimes. I have a theory. Theoriously? Yes, I do. She, somewhere in her mind, I don't know because I don't know her and I've never met her or talked to her, but she somewhere in her mind might have felt some type of pressure because she now has a book deal and she feels every part of this must be perfect before I move on. It's good that it works for her, that doing that doesn't hinder her creative process or anything like that, but sounds like a pain to me. Well, that's my theory, is that somewhere in her mind she felt that sort of pressure of living up to this book deal. Like, people are expecting her to be good, right? To be great, to be worth investing in, right? So she maybe, possibly, somewhere in her noggin felt that she had to be perfect with every single sentence before she moved on. It's sort of like a bit of perfectionist tendencies coming out there that she justified to herself as working, and she forcefully made it work. And I guess that it works for her. If it works for her, well, that's good. That's good. It works for her. But as she said, which is good, it's great that she said this, that she doesn't recommend it. She says, I deeply don't recommend, unless, of course, it works for you too. So, it doesn't work for me. I can tell you that it doesn't work for me. I can't do that in the draft stage. I just want to continue on and continue on and continue on and push it until it's done. That's different in the revising stage. In the editing stage, I might work on a single section for many, many days. I wouldn't work on it for a month, or I would try not to work on like a single chapter for a month or something. I would try to really push through. The only reason editing something might take me, like if editing like editing one chapter might take me like a month. That is usually because something is going on with me mentally. I have to have a certain mental freedom feeling in my body, and something is going on else in my life or whatever. Or it's summer. Summer just sucks out all that creative motivation for some reason. Something about summer. It gets so hot in Japan. Oh my gosh. It's been like, summer has been like, the average is like 37 degrees Celsius to like 39 degrees Celsius. And it becomes like 34. You're like, oh, it's a cooler day today. I'm like, oh my gosh. There was a time I remember in elementary school, like when I was, I don't know, like 10 or 11, when it was like the hottest day would be like 30 or 31 or 32, like pushing it 32. And that was like the normal. Oh my gosh. And now the norm is like 37, 38 degrees Celsius. That is boiling. Sometimes it's 40 in some places. That is an oven. So all my creative juices get sucked out, and then I'm like, I don't want to work on anything. So I end up procrastinating for most of the summer. But I do try to work on things during the summer. Because I have to keep the creative stuff flowing. Anyway, I don't, in the drafting stage, no, I don't work on something over and over and over until it's perfected. That is what editing is for. I just keep it messy. I heed this advice. When you're drafting, just draft. Don't revise. Don't rework scenes in the pursuit of perfection. A first draft is meant to be messy, so let it be messy. It's fine to be messy. I'm saying it's fine to be messy. In fact, just write and just leave the editing to when after you finish the story. That is the beauty of editing. Sometimes I think, like if I'm cooking a meal or something, I think, oh, I don't want my hands to get dirty, and I'm going to try really hard not to get them dirty. And I think, you know what? I have tissues. I have water. I can wash my hands. That's what washing hands is for. So I'll just be messy. I'll touch everything. I mean, I don't like touch things just randomly. Like if I need to use my hands, I'll use my hands. Is what I'm saying. If something is messy in the beginning, it's fine if it's messy in the beginning. It's fine if it's not perfect. That's what I'm trying to do in trying to keep in mind when I illustrate. Like I illustrate as a hobby, and that's what I do to keep in mind with the illustration. Like the sketch is going to be messy. That's just the way it is, and you clean it up later and then it looks fine. Trust the process. That's the thing. Trust the process. What do you hope readers will get out of your book? I've always thought it strange that coming-of-age stories are almost exclusively considered a paradigm of young adult literature. For my part, I didn't have anything like a coming-of-age until I was in my 20s, at college, and on my own, and discovering along the way what I wanted to do with my life. That was something I thought about a lot with The Doll Makers. I wanted to write a story about an adult woman who's very good at what she does, but is so convinced she understands herself and the world perfectly, she can't see that what she thought she was meant to do with her life isn't what she's actually meant to do with her life. A nuance and level of introspection I myself had to discover as an adult, and a process I hope is relatable to anyone reading The Doll Makers. That was very interesting. I don't base off anything from my life in my stories, so I don't really relate to anything what she is saying here, but that is very interesting. And that is so true that I didn't really feel, you know what? It could be a difference in how you were brought up, how you were taught about the world and stuff like that. All kinds of things. Our lives are completely different. Okay. I don't know if she has siblings. I am an only child, so I feel like I had a coming of age moment a little bit at my last year of high school. Still living at home. I want to get out, about, and away in the world, and I wanted to do things, and I'm stuck at home, and I want to just hurry up and go and leave and all that stuff. And the figuring out, I already knew that I wanted to pursue this writing thing. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be published. I already knew I wanted that. So, in terms of other things, I just kind of fell into other things in high school and then fell into other things in the first year of college. Actually, I had after I graduated high school, which in Japan, that is around March. Yeah, it's beginning of March, end of February, around there. I graduate from high school, But then my university, because instead of starting in April, which is usually Japanese universities or schools start in April, my program was an English-based program. So it started in September. So I had about how much? It's like 6 months before then. So I sort of fell into doing other things, falling into doing other things during that time before actually going off to college. Now, that was the year 2011. And if you know what happened in the March of 2011, it was the Great Eastern Japan earthquake on March 11th. And so all of that stuff was going on. I think around that time that was going on, I was like, falling into doing other academic things and just fell into things, but also secretly pursuing writing at the side. And then I got into college, so by that time I was just so ready to just leave and go off to college. In terms of like coming of age, I don't know if I was experiencing that in my 20s or anything like that. I feel like I already had that experience beforehand. But anyway, enough about me. She said she had the coming of age moment when she was in her 20s. That is her situation. Okay. So she was hoping that readers would someone like her. There would be people like her who would read The Dollmakers and relate to the characters. And I hope readers enjoy the adventure, the lovely dolls and creepy dolls and monsters that weep as they kill you, the broody forest called Deep, the shining cities along the far shore of the country called One, the bullheadedness of our heroine and the earnest anxiety of her rival, dollmaker Aikisa, the sometimes vague origins and weary endurance of the other characters encountered throughout the story. I wrote The Dollmakers to muse on growth and self-awareness, but I also wrote it to introduce a strange world that toes the line between cozy and horrifying, beautiful and dangerous. I hope readers enjoy their time in the country called One, monsters and all. This is just an opinion. One, a country called One. You couldn't have come up with something else. I mean, that's just my opinion. My opinion. Don't come from me. That's just my opinion, okay? I am one that likes to come up with actual, like, names for, like, fantasy countries and stuff like that. Like, I go to, like, Wiktionary and really look for things that... Look for words and stick them and mix and mash them together. But, you want to call it One? Okay. That's you, not me. So I think this cozy and horrifying, beautiful and dangerous, something that has been promoted by some of the gothic fiction type of books featuring women, like Mexican Gothic. I don't know if it's cozy. Well, horrifying, beautiful, and dangerous, definitely. I read it. The ending was to me, but the prose was pretty. So, I mean, but, Also, there's a lot of other, like, books that are like the beautiful, dangerous forest type of books. There's a book that I haven't read. It's called Follow Me to Ground. I think it's that kind of cozy, horrifying, beautiful, dangerous type of book. That seems to be a trend these days. It's not a big trend, not a widespread trend, but it's going around. And I'm starting to think, maybe I want to write something like that. I don't know. I do like me some good hectic adventure with crazy characters and crazy magic system and dark monsters and stuff like that. So I don't know if it will be cozy. I don't really write cozy particularly. So, interesting. I mean, it did really make me think about Mexican Gothic. It really did make me think about Mexican Gothic. Okay. Because that also features a woman, sort of, she knows what she wants to do with her life, but she has to go and investigate the situation with her, was it her sister or her cousin? I can't remember actually, but there's like mushrooms growing inside the house. So there's a lot of things with mushrooms and the lizard dragon thing that eats his own tail type of stuff, and just just fungi growing, and the house is like breathing or something like that. It's creepy, kind of unsettling type of stuff. I did have lots of critiques for that book, but that's not for this video. How would you read this name? Ikisa. I think I would read it as Ikisa, because Ikisa sounds too much like IKEA, so I'd probably read it as Ikisa. Anyway. Here we go with the advice. If you could share one piece of advice with other writers, what would it be? Love your books, even if it feels like no one else does. Trust that what you've written has meaning, and that meaning has inherent worth because it does. As writers, there is no shame in wanting to share our work with others. Nothing wrong with thinking about marketability and how best to reach readers. But in the same breath, if one of your books isn't picked up, if a story you care about doesn't reach the audience you hoped it would reach, that doesn't diminish its value. That's good. That's good to say. That's good to say. Love your books. I saw a post recently in a Facebook writing group that was something like, how do you stop yourself from feeling silly? I'm working on my world building and I just feel silly about it. Something like that. How do you stop yourself from feeling silly? And I thought I'd never had that perspective of doubting like my story, or feeling like my story is too weird or too silly. And in my comment, I said something like, the sillier it is, the funner it gets. Because for me, it's always been, I've grown as a writer on social media, and so I've always constantly been seeing and getting, not feedback, but responses to my writing from other people. And I know that if there is one person who likes this weird, silly thing that I wrote, there are other people. And it's not just me who thinks it's awesome and great. I just suddenly thought of a song. What was it? She's so wonderful and great. Wonderful and great. Something. What was her name? I keep forgetting her name. The artist, the singer that did the Buck Buck on Drag Race? The Drag Queen? No, what? Eurovision. Uh, what was her name? I keep like forgetting her name for some reason. I'm subscribed to her channel. I like all her music, but keep forgetting. She had this one where she was like, look, there is she who is so wonderful and great. Anyway, what was I talking about? Yeah, love your books. So, what was her name? I don't know why I keep forgetting her name. So weird. I should remember her name, honestly, but. So, I've never felt like my books are too silly or too weird or too, like, unhinged or whatever. I've always just posted it online, see what people think, because I like it, so somebody else might, right? I've never felt like they were like less valuable in any way. I don't know. Is it because that I've always been a writer on social media? Maybe, like I've had input from people, but I just never felt that anything I wrote was too silly. Actually, I've tried to aim for too silly and enjoy the heck out of it, of doing that. So, anyway. Keep writing. For the love of writing, for the hope of sharing what you love with others. You know the result if you stop writing, but you don't know what will happen if you keep going. It's only when we give up that we fail. That means good thing to say. Good thing to say, good thing to end with. Okay. Keep writing. Yeah, keep writing. What's it going to do? What's it going to hurt? It's not going to hurt anybody. Just explore. I would say, a piece of advice that I would share that I like to do a lot and that helps me explore what works for me and what doesn't is just experiment. Just because you wrote something doesn't mean you always have to share it. I have written short stories of all kinds of characters and topics and themes. Some stuff that I read and it's like, ugh, this is bad. This is so bad. Why would I even try this genre? It's not for me. But I tried it and then I know it's not for me. So experiment, but also enjoy the experiment. You're not experimenting just to see what will happen. You're experimenting and you're enjoying doing that. Be as weird as you want to be as unhinged as you want to be, write whatever you want, and just experiment and have fun with it. I mean, you got into this writing because you like writing, right? So, have fun. Have fun. Just have fun. Have lots of fun. It's so much fun. It's stressful, but it's fun, okay? It's chaos, and it's fun. It's terrible. Why do we do this to ourselves, us writers? We struggle so much with writing, and then we still write. Because it's fun, isn't it? Yes, it's very fun. So, that's it. So that's the end of this article, and it was an interview with Lynn Buchanan. I don't actually know how to say your last name. Buchanan? Buchanan. Buchanan? Buchanan. I don't know. I'm starting to sound like a chicken. Buck, buck, buck. Yeah, anyway. So, what did you think about what she says? Do you have any answers to the questions? The questions were, what prompted you to write this book? How long did it take to go from idea to publication if you're published? And did the idea change during the process? If you're not published, I would change these questions to how long did it take to go from idea to finished book? And did the idea change during the process? Were there any surprises or learning moments in the publishing process for this title? Not the publishing process, like if you haven't published yet, I would ask, were there any surprises or learning moments in the editing process for this book? Were there any surprises in the writing process? Surprises. Were there any surprises, other surprises? And what do you hope readers would get out of your book if you have an idea for that? And if you could share one piece of advice with other writers, what would it be? Keep in mind, advice is an opinion based on your experiences. It's a suggestion that is an opinion. So just because it worked for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Take everything with a grain of salt, even everything that I'm saying. So that's it. Let me know your comments down below. And that was interview with Lynn Buchanan on Breaking Good Writing Advice on Writer's Digest, written by Robert Lee Brewer on August 17, 2024. I should have said that in the beginning, but I'm putting it in the end here. Let me know your thoughts, like and subscribe. That would be awesome. And you'll get to see more videos like this. Yes. And hope you have a lovely day. Hope you have a lovely rest of the day. Keep hydrated. And that's it. The fox is out.